Welcome to another live stream. Just getting set up here. And then we will start inking this pretty soon. Thanks for joining me today. As you can see here on the left is a comic book called The Punctuation Man. Punctuation Man is a superhero satire comic featuring characters based on punctuation marks. And they're kind of these wannabe superheroes, but then they are superheroes. This being the fourth stream, you will be seeing me inking this character here, Apostrophe, who is the same as this, featured in the comic book. And yeah, check out the previous few streams if you want to see me drawing this character, or if you want to see me drawing a period, the first two streams. What I'm thinking of doing is basically streaming this year every Saturday. And then after that, I'm going to kind of, you know, think about, see where things are at that time, and decide whether I want to continue streaming. But for this year, that's my game plan. Let me show you quickly this comic book here. Now, so without giving everything away, you're introduced to these characters, the Punctuation Men. Then they go to the senior care center, and they see all these old people there. And then we see lurking out in the back of the senior care center. I'll read this for you. Meanwhile, at the back door of the 6th Street Senior Citizen Care Center, and there's this guy, this Frenchman named Renan Sentence. And he's saying, "Look at all those old people and their beautiful teeth. Why can't I, Renan Sentence, get Medicare to help me buy some dentures? 'Cause these French genes I was born with. Look at me. I'm gorgeous. Like this. Except for my teeth." And you can see he's got really bad teeth. So he hatches this idea basically to go and steal these dentures. Check it out, guys. It's a cool comic. I'm right now selling these. There's limited stock, originally printed 2,000 copies in 2003. And there is 850 copies left at the time of this video. So yeah, go to eBay right now if you're interested in getting some copies. I got bundles, starter bundles, and larger bundles for sale over there. All right, well, let's get to inking then. I have to say, for like inking tools, I really like these Fudenoski pens. They're really versatile because they're pretty easy to use, but they act like a brush in as much as they give you pen tip variation, but also not too much variation. It's like if you want a kind of smoother look, they work good for that, and they just work really good. This is the bigger one, which is the one that I use mostly. Um, you might, if you look closely at the previous streams, you might notice uh, I redrew this finger right here. So that was just something I fixed between the streams here. Try to make it a little bit more dynamic. Even fingers need to be dynamic, because everything in comics should be dynamic, right? Yeah, if anybody has been checked out the Punctuation Man, yeah, I just sure appreciate just a share or a repost if you're an indie comics guy, because I'm trying to spread the word right now. Um, it will also, in addition to being on eBay right now, which is actually the only place really you can get copies at this time. I am going to soon be putting it out through Ingram Spark, which will make it, it'll be available on Amazon, and, make it available to order throughout the world in bookstores and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to be, trying to get it into all those places. And because, of course, everybody, who labors in indie comics needs to make money, right? But I'm trying to take a path that might possibly lead to more readers, and I want Punctuation Men to be in libraries and stuff too. I want people to be aware of it, and that's been a sadness to me over the years that people weren't more aware of it. Now, although there were, people were aware of it, but just sort of in general, there wasn't much of an awareness of it. There was some people who were aware of it, but I would like to change that, because I think Punctuation Man is really a cool concept, and it has potential to be more. So yeah, if you want those original copies, go get yourself a bundle, because there's not going to be a reprint most likely, and then it'll be available. The print on demand versions will be available and those will be cool too. But if you're interested in like the OG, having an OG copy from a limited print run, now's the time to order those. So yeah, this pen is working pretty good for me here. If anybody happens to like what you're seeing here, you should go check out some of the other videos on this channel, because I also sell Halloween shirts that I make, and I also have surreal art and music, and that I guess there's pros and cons to having multiple avenues of creativity. The pros is you get to experience the different avenues, and if you have passion in those different avenues, then you get to have some place to work on those passions. But the cons definitely end up being um, limited time, you know and like the sort of, in this world we live in, where everything, people want to be able to quickly identify what you are and all that. It might water down the easy to understand perception. It's like, oh, he's this or he's that. He's a comic book artist. He's a this, he's a that. And it's like, when people go to your channel, they see you got videos of music videos, and they see you got art videos and this and different styles. It can be hard for them to just put a quick identifier on you. I wouldn't say I necessarily have different styles, but comic art and surreal art, you can say, are different styles, I guess. But if you were to actually look at the art, you would see a through line, because it's still my brain doing the different, you know. I would call them more like categories rather than styles. Different categories. Um, so so yeah, that would be the con, I guess, is people have a little bit more trouble identifying. But I just feel when I feel um, that I need to work on music, then I drop, or I set to the side the other things, and I go full bore on the music, and I just sort of do the same thing with each of the categories, filmmaking or comic book making or surreal art, whatever it is, because I like to do it all. So you know it's all part of my creative expression. And in a world where AI art is now here and prevalent, I mean, aren't you guys tired of it? Are, is it just me, or like, do you like having AI, like these fake mouthed like AI characters trying to sell you products that you don't need, and or all the other various forms of it? It's just like, if I went to see a movie, what connects me to a movie? It really does have to come from a human place. It really does. If it doesn't, there's just something off about it, you know. The connective tissue that, you know, makes us human is just is not there, you know. If it's literally, you know, am I against all forms of AI use? Not necessarily. No, I'm not. I mean, you know, if you need to help figure out a computer program, or, you know, help identify an issue or whatever, because I use it for that too. Like, I'm not gonna lie. But what I'm against though is the just the idea that you can just like replace your human effort into a creative feel endeavor, and have it be something you can be truly proud of, or something that truly connects, you know. Because I can tell, I can feel it, you know. Like, that's what I'm saying when I say I'm tired of it. It's like I can feel the fakeness, you know. And it would be nice to get back to a real human interactions as much as possible in this world. I think that is one of the main things that's missing from, or that's changing for the worse about society. And this is not, it's not just old man syndrome either. This is like, I've seen I've seen things been getting worse, you know. You talk about progress, and yet things get worse. It doesn't make sense to me, you know. But anyway, there's enough don't really want to get off too much on the political stuff, but I don't really think what I'm saying is political. It's just, you know, reality observational, I guess. Here's another good tool to use. It's a Pentel. What is it? Let's see here. Well, anyway, you've seen these around. It's all you. I don't know how old it is. It's, you know, several years old, and been used. But yeah. So now what I'm gonna start trying to do here is I'm just locking in these shapes here, And then I'm going to start filling them in. And I do want to fill them in because I want them to be anchors, like large black anchors. And when you I've you know you can do it this way too if you want, but like kind of like leave stripy stuff in there, sketchy kind of lines and stuff in there. But when you do it that way, it's bringing more noise and visual uh, interest in a way to those areas. So if you don't want to do that, for instance, this whole leg right here, I might have a little bit of feathering right here, larger feathering, not teeny tiny feathering. Um, but all this is just going to be filled in right here in black. It's just totally going to be filled in. Okay. And I'm going to, right here, do a little bit of feathering there. And then fill all that with black. Now the inking streams do tend to be a little bit longer than the penciling streams, what I've noticed. I could have probably done that a little bit better, but and the reason is that for that is, it's inking. It has to be, you know, when you're penciling, you're throwing it down, you're figuring it out, and you would think that that might be the more lengthy process, but with the finishing, you are really having to slow down and just be a little bit more careful with how you're laying stuff in there. All right, so right there, I'm just gonna do a shadow shape right there. Right here, there's gonna be just some fast lines, and then right here, more of a solid shape. So yeah, you guys, I do these streams every Saturday. Like I said, I'm gonna do it for a year and see if I can get a little bit more interest going. But I have to say a little bit of a comment on like the modern age of like YouTube and everything is I when I'm like really working on my comics, like I have to, I have to be in the zone. Like I can't be thinking about cameras or speaking or anything, because it's just you're really, it's then it becomes a which is cool. It's cool. Like I like to watch, art content, and I like to watch people draw, and I like to listen to actually see artists and everything. But you know, for like an example, uh, when they were working on the Nirvana Nevermind album, there's like very little as far as like actual video footage or uh, pictures from the studio. And one of the reasons is because Butch Vig, the producer, didn't allow for it, because he saw the studio as a sanctuary. And it is like the studio or the art process, it is, you know. And when you're got a camera on you, you're not you might not be 100% in the zone for the fact that there's a camera on you, and I think a lot of people would agree with me about that. So, what's the point of that? What I'm saying is just, you know, that's why I limit how much I live stream, because it does require time and effort, you know. I mean, sometimes you're sitting here like I am today, and you may kind of be at a loss for things to talk about, you know. But here we persist. Another reason that people do live, like artists do live streams and stuff now. Um, Obviously, they're trying to sell their art. But another reason is kind of like a social proof, social or just proof that you're the one doing it, that proof that you can do what you're saying you're doing, that it's not just AI or that it's not just hired out, or you know what I mean. So we're sitting here basically trying to prove to y'all we can do what we claim that we're doing here. All right, let's see here. We go trying to get this hand. You guys don't mind a little music, do you? Here we're gonna add some kind of chunky feathering, brushy. Man, I think normally I might take a break at this point, but can't. Streaming live. Gotta try to get this done. I'm using a lot of brain cells to try to get this done. I don't know how many brain cells I have left. There's this. I was talking to my cousin recently. We were talking about like some of our early jobs that we had, when we were teenagers, and there was a auto paint store nearby where we grew up, which I won't say the name, but they used to have teenagers, when you would have to sign a waiver to work there because that place had so many fumes that if you got, brain damage or health issues or any of that as a result of working there, you'd have to sign this waiver to work there, basically saying that you couldn't sue them and that they weren't, in any way responsible for the damage that working at their company caused, the physical damage. And you go into this place and it hits you like a ton of bricks, just the fumes, you know. So smart smart people that had to work there would wear a mask, but man, I don't know how many brain cells you'd have left after a few days working there. Okay, I'm just gonna take a look at the old clock to see how long we've been going. And we've been going for about 34 minutes, so not bad. Not bad. We made some progress. And we're still going here. Apostrophe. He's really based on this, my friend from high school, Ricky Gordon. And of course, period is based on me. Which I've said this story before, but this hat here, I used to have this little beanie that I would wear in high school. And so when I started designing the period character, he had this beanie, but then it just became like a fun thing and since he didn't have a cape or anything, it became a visually interesting element to draw this little hat that just kind of wrapped around, and you could create all these interesting shapes with. So just exaggeration and stuff, that's all part of what makes comics fun. you know. At least the kind of comics I like, you know. As I've mentioned before, I'm not, you know, that interested in like super realistic and anatomically correct proportions and all that stuff. I just want to see an image that has a little bit of magic to it, you know, just a little something something. That's the goal. And you know, that's what I'm trying to do here is trying to create magic with a little a pencil and a brush pen, you know. So this pen is working pretty good for me here because for all these little kind of rock lines and things, I can get these little variations of width, you know, and sometimes barely touching and sometimes adding a little bit more pressure. Right here, I'm gonna get some very like little fine, just a few little wisps of, sorry if my head's blocking that stuff. Okay. At some point, I might go back to the pen. Well, let's keep going with the brush for a little bit while longer. Yeah, anybody who catches this, come back and, you know, please like leave a comment, drop a like. Um, be much appreciated. Helps give signals to us drawlers that you guys like what we're doing here, so that we will take the time out of our schedules to continue doing things like live streaming. Yeah. All right. I don't really like getting involved in controversy. So if you are interested in controversy and giving your money to people who are just, you know, using you to, you know, take your money and giving you controversy in exchange for it, that's not what this channel's about. I'm about creativity. And that's what I'm always going to be about. Sometimes in life, you know, maybe a controversial thing may be thrust upon you, and then you have to handle it in the best way possible. But I'm certainly not going to be sitting here drumming it up some more, you know. So I don't think that's what it's, making comic books is about. Seriously. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got a microphone now. I'm definitely a believer in freedom of speech, but I'm also a believer in, you know, human decency and kindness. And I could be mean sometimes. I'm human. But I try not to be. Okay. That is weird there. I should probably be using my pen at this point, but I'm just trying to get a little more mileage out of the brush, I guess. Yeah, get a little bit more black right here. I don't know. Thank you for coming by Land and Humor Studios. There will be some streams where I'm not constantly talking. But that's why it's a drawing stream. Do you think there's too much talking in today's world? I heard somebody say that, and I kind of agreed with them. There's too much talking and not enough doing. Too much talking, not enough doing. I think that's true. It's easy to talk. So one thing that I do when especially now, is that when my eye goes around the image, I try to like keep in mind the areas that I want to have detail, and then areas where I want not to have detail. It sounds simple, but it's like it really is something you got to kind of think about, because the the eye likes to have places to rest, you know. All right, there's like a little strap here. I'm just gonna carefully draw it in there. I don't know. All right. But a fair amount of the image is inked now. But I do need to start working on that background a little bit. And you know, sometimes like even after I get this much inked, I'll sometimes go back in with pencil because now that I can see the black there, now then it becomes more easier for me to see where I might need to finesse the black shapes a little bit, etc. Whereas just seeing it in pencil is sometimes hard for my brain to do that. Let's see, bump up the contrast factor 100 times by putting this black ink line on it, you know. Okay. We got some windows in here. Let's keep it loose. This is supposed to be a little bit of a looser, sketchier style. That's the way I want it to look. His mouth. Let's draw some of these little birds back here. Birds are very small. Some of them are just little dots. But when you see it from a distance, got some smudging going on here. When you see it from a distance, though, your brain just reads that as little birds. Little birds. Pretty bird. That's just dots. Try to kind of somewhat vary them up a little bit. Okay. And sometimes what I do is I'll look over here and I'm inking down here. It's because I'm trying to balance one side of the picture with the other. Something I heard Joe Kubert say once, sometimes you need to almost have two sets of eyes. All right, here's it gonna be. All right, I'm gonna try to do this now. It's gonna be a little tricky. I'm very lightly touching this. Very lightly. These are just speed strokes, really, to to give it indication of speed, texture, atmosphere. And I give myself maybe a B minus. Go in there with a little pen to kind of give that a little bit more. No, Holly, I'm still going. I need another maybe 15 minutes. Okay, let's get the top of this building over here. Doing the same thing. Try to keep those lines as straight as I can, even though I have wobbly hands. See these little lines, I just want them just kind of try to keep them straight. That's my wife. And there she's getting hungry and wanting to make some food. I'm still inking this with this brush because I'm just still trying to keep the feeling like, brushy. So this brush is starting to feel a little bit. So all right, now I just watered down the tip of it and kind of trying to get some of that dry ink off of there. Let's see. Doing this to kind of try to get a little bit better tip. Okay. Let's try. I don't know. Sometimes Arizona is a strange place. Sometimes these clouds will come in and it'll suddenly just, the whole room will get darker. You go from like burning up in the sun 1 second to the next second. You can't see anything because a big cloud came and covered up the sun. And in my and so it kind of it kind of shifts, the environment too. So I wanted to have that kind of a cold, warm feeling. So when I was color grading my movie Erratic, which you can see on YouTube, my horror film, I left that to get more of an ambiance and get more of a, an interesting feeling. I went ahead and just left in cool and warm, and so it would kind of shift back and forth throughout the movie. know, so everything wasn't just this one palette. Okay. Okay. Sometimes with this lines, you just gotta go for it. It's not gonna be perfect. Yeah. Not terrible. All right. For the moon line back here, I am going to switch to another pen. And that is going to be a micron. 003. The smallest microns. Use sparingly. All right. I think that it kind of looks dark in here. I mean, in the room I'm in. Just micron. Be a little bit dried out. Shake it up. Sometimes with these small pens, you know, they get a little bit. You have to kind of get them flowing again. Okay, now we got some ink coming out. I'm using my little 003 because this moon is going to be minimal back here. And I just want the line to be very thin and minimal. And I'm freehanding it because, you know, if it, you know, it could use, it would, might look okay too as if it was like a perfect circle, but I don't have one of those like inking compasses though. So I'd have to be, maybe that's something I should get. Oh, I got a bubble of ink coming out. Okay. I have to be honest that inking perfect circles was not my strong point. But if I really wanted this to be look like a really smooth, perfect circle, it would be smart for me to use the tool to help me achieve that. Right now, it's not a bit sketchy up there. But is that cool though? Is it cool? It might be cool. I don't know. Kind of is cool. Maybe I can Add another line or two here. Got a little bit of a Sam Keith vibe there. She passed away recently, which is sad. A lot of famous comic book people. Sorry, I shouldn't say where. They are human. And us as humans, we only in this world for a limited time. I had an aunt pass away recently, and it's still sad because I used to like to talk to her. And can't do it anymore. If any of you have lost loved ones, you know what I'm talking about. Well, I'm coming. I might go for another 5 minutes here, and I'm just using this little pen to now go in and do little detail fixes around the design. But for the most part, it's there. I think I'd actually, you know, I wasn't sure, did I want just a perfect circle up here or how I was going to handle that, but I think I kind of like it like that, where it's a little bit not perfect right there. But it looks nice to me. It kind of gives the piece a balance. Apostrophe from the Punctuation Man. Super cool indie superhero satire comic book, originally released in 2003. Never saw a mass global distribution, but I'm bringing it back and trying to raise some awareness for something that deserves awareness. So go on eBay, check out, just type in Punctuation Men bundles, place your order, and I will send them to you directly. If you're a retailer or a reseller, that would be perfect for you. I'm selling them at very good prices, virtually liquidation prices at this point. But I wouldn't say total liquidation. I would say more like just very good wholesale pricing. But yeah, at this point though, the image is basically there. I would just erase it and tweak little details, experiment with the shapes a little bit. But what is the time? We are at 65 minutes. So this live stream here actually did go a little bit shorter than the other one. But there it is. The inked apostrophe. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you. Check out the other videos. I got music videos. I got music albums that I've recorded. I've got art process videos, fully produced videos, as well as a lot more live stream type content. I'm doing the Punctuation Man right now, and issue 2 will be coming out in a few months. So be on the lookout for that. You can get your issue 1 bundles right now on eBay for the Punctuation Man. All right, I'm going to check out for today. Thanks for joining me. Have a good one. Love you. Bye.